Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Project CD Chronicles. Let's launch this executable for the Commodore 64 right away and take a look at the visual effect it can give us. As you can see, we can type and do a few other things. In particular, this is called and is also the basis for making demos, the wobbling effect. In particular, I developed a technique using double raster. So if you're interested in how I did it, watch the video until the end. And even though I never ask, subscribe to the channel for more interesting videos and to always stay updated on the latest Commodore news. It all started here with the viewing of this video, especially focusing on the D011 register. Oh, of course, this demo can't even be compared to the ones they make, but that's clearly not the point here. I'll leave the comprehensive link in the description below, but through this particular video presentation, they meticulously show us some advanced techniques that, of course, absolutely need to be put into diligent practice to achieve all sorts of truly different and varied visual effects. In particular, as I was just saying, utilizing the D011 register and the intricate raster, the double raster, the bad lines, and so on. These are many clever hardware tricks that seemed and indeed still seem quite unthinkable even today for achieving truly astonishing and visually captivating effects. Among the various fascinating effects discussed and demonstrated in the video, there was this particularly amusing, what was specifically called the wobbling effect, which was quite memorable. Wobbling technically means something a bit wobbly, and we've already seen an initial reconstruction of it in what was called tremors. So in what Felice Nardella showed us, and especially as implemented in Marco Bergami's game, where there was this shaky screen that simulated a tremor, clearly, by skillfully playing with these various techniques and methods, you can undoubtedly achieve a multitude of impressive and diverse effects, allowing for truly remarkable creative outcomes. Coming back to us, we can also effectively minimize it. Clearly, this is indeed a sophisticated wobbling technique, as it allows the textual content to smoothly scroll, utilizing the precise scoring register, both to one side and the other, creating a dynamic and engaging visual effect. Just imagine, for example, redefining the various characters, which allows you to achieve special effects even by changing the type of character that is displayed directly on the screen, resulting in a richer type of graphics. In this way, you can also further stabilize the image. I could have done it with a single raster as well. In this case, I used a double raster, which isn't exactly suitable for the part I made, but it was just to illustrate this additional technique. Technically, the double raster is used in demos to be able to stabilize the images and in some particular demos to capture what are called bad lines. But this is a topic for a separate video. If you're interested in the topic, leave me a comment and of course share this. And if so, I'll come back with a more in-depth video. Let's get back to us for a moment. So this is clearly the program, but I need to enlarge it because otherwise you won't be able to see anything. It's written in 64 TASM, which makes it easily portable to all the various computers, and basically it uses this, which is the wiki raster interrupt, so you can replicate it yourselves as well. And basically, this is the basic technique that we've seen several times where we take the registers from C to C1, temporarily disable the interrupts. So you can see set B interrupt switch off the signals as far as the CIA is concerned. Only in this particular way can we effectively modify the IRQ routine, because every single time, and here we are back on the classic Commodore 64, you can clearly see it meticulously draws a graphical line and subsequently generates various interrupt requests. There are several of them on the Commodore 5. There are IRQs. One of these IRQs is clearly generated by these registers, and in particular we need to find register D012, which among other things is responsible for identifying the raster line. Technically I need to do this better now, but let's say that this 210 is here. Let's say it's in the middle of the screen. I'm telling it that whenever the raster line that's actively drawing the screen precisely reaches the value of 210, we then perform a specific hack on this additional IRQ routine. So you can consider it as a callback in particular, and subsequently it basically returns to the previous function. I remember that you need to use a particular technique, which we can see here and is indicated by these, but it's not always done this way. It also depends on the type of techniques where you need to perform this kind of specific instruction to indicate moving on to the next line so that the raster continues scanning and drawing the various lines across our entire Commodore 64. So this essentially is the fundamental basis for effectively redirecting our established routine that we are going to utilize in a very specific and precise manner. So what you are seeing here, and let's definitely come back to this particular point because at this stage it becomes much clearer, especially for a YouTube video where the individual characters are not readily visible, is precisely this specific part. Perhaps we will delve into it in even more comprehensive detail anyway, and this is exactly where we, so to speak, seamlessly hook into another one of our established routines. And this makes use of what is the D16 register, which we saw in a previous video. I remind you to go and watch The Demons of Osiris, which I posted on the channel earlier, as well as the tremors effect. Anyway, for those who haven't seen the video yet, I recommend you check it out. Among the various options provided by the 5327 ILO, the D016, one of them is obviously to perform what is called a horizontal raster crawl scroll, particularly for the first 3 bits, 0, 1, and 2. Why is that? Well, because at the fundamental binary level, these 3 specific bits identify a value of 8, and this value of 8 is exactly the predetermined size of a character matrix. So technically speaking, on the classic Commodore 64 computer, when we refer to the action of scrolling or when a new line of text is inserted onto the display, the entire screen content is shifted by a precise measurement of 8 individual bits at a time. But by carefully adjusting this type of register, as you can clearly observe and visually discern here, and here I've thoughtfully added a comprehensive table, it's entirely possible to instruct it each and every time to precisely and incrementally shift it by 1, 2, 3, up to 7 distinct steps, which gives exactly that remarkably smooth and continuous movement effect you can clearly perceive in this specific part. And how do you achieve this, of course? Clearly, we refer to what is called a sine table, this one here. Obviously, this sine table needs to be calculated. It has to be calculated beforehand because, as you can see, 4, 5, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, and that's exactly what gives it the appearance of a wave. Ooh, clearly a sine wave. We'll look at this later. In fact, I move it a bit forward and a bit backward, creating this effect. Think about it in terms of graphics, think about scrolling, and imagine this wobbling technique combined with other techniques where you can achieve really, really interesting effects with very little effort, so to speak. All right, let's get back to our topic. Obviously, I'll release all the source code either on my GitHub site or for anyone who requests it, even by email, or if possible, I'll even bundle it here in a comment. It's readily available on the wiki, so you can easily go and thoroughly check it out for yourselves, so there's absolutely no problem at all. This is the primary operational loop. All it fundamentally does is meticulously cycle through the predefined sine table precisely as I demonstrated to you earlier, and consequently, it basically moves the individual pixels back and forth across the display. However, it is important to exercise caution and be aware that this particular approach is not, in fact, the most optimal or efficient method available for this task. We deliberately implemented it in a considerably more intricate and elaborate manner because, while in this specific scenario it primarily involves the simple movement of individual characters, it is crucial to conceptualize and understand this entire routine precisely as if it were a fundamental Pascal begin-end block, a foundational programming construct. Do you understand? Because I started programming with Pascal and I'll always continue with Pascal and of course with C as well. So this is really the heart of the program. But let's make things more complicated by adding to the IRQ, to which we've already hooked a second type of IRQ. This particular technique, among many other significant and crucial methods, is indeed one of the very important and fundamental techniques, especially for effectively stabilizing the raster display, particularly to meticulously avoid certain problematic issues with bad lines, to consistently stay well within the 64 cycles, and so on and so forth. However, this particular technique then starts to get a bit more complex and intricate, as it meticulously takes into account what is the sophisticated hacking of the line itself in order to precisely make it generate a subsequent and necessary interrupt. and it then smoothly returns to the efficient execution of the standard kernel routine, which obviously in some specific cases, instead of using EA31, you should indeed use E81, but perhaps we will thoroughly look at that in another dedicated section. Once we've successfully performed this initial hooking operation, a subsequent and crucial second hooking procedure will then be carried out. This is precisely when it will execute what is technically referred to as the double raster, which essentially means a raster within another raster, all occurring within what constitutes the second routine or operational phase. At this particular juncture, unlike the preceding instances, as we can clearly observe, we are meticulously examining the D0D016 register, which is specifically utilized for the intricate process of horizontal scrolling. Concurrently, we are employing the D011 register for the equally important task of vertical scrolling, representing a distinct and highly effective technique within this system. I very strongly and earnestly recommend that you take the initiative to thoroughly investigate and explore these concepts yourselves, because while I can certainly provide you with the foundational knowledge and point you in the correct and most promising direction, it ultimately falls upon your shoulders to truly delve much deeper into these complex and fascinating topics. This process, as I have personally experienced and as is frequently the case in such endeavors, is often best accomplished through a diligent and persistent approach of trial and error, allowing for genuine understanding and mastery. So, with all of that in mind, what exactly does this specific and crucial part of the system actually accomplish? Let us proceed to examine it in detail right away. All right, let's get back to it because this particular part is a bit more complex and intricate. While on one hand we only have the subtle movement of the screen itself, on the other hand we have the significant and complete shifting of the entire color memory in order to precisely achieve this specific kind of visual effect, which is quite remarkable. And obviously, while on one side we have, so to speak, a relatively simple and straightforward loop, as we can clearly see and observe through the consistent undulations of a sine wave, on the other side, the overall management and handling of the system becomes considerably more intricate and complex because we're dealing with meticulously pre-calculated lines, carefully designed and optimized in advance so that we can effectively take and utilize them. Please see D800, D828, and D850 for further details because we have significant portions of the cooler area already pre-calculated and readily available through the utilization of these specific pointers. All right. And we're also truly able to precisely move the entire color area in a very elegant and remarkably smooth way, and so to speak, with relatively little effort, even though the underlying program itself is actually a bit more inherently complex and sophisticated. Clearly, this does nothing more than move a portion. In other words, it seems more complex, but in practice, it would basically be two for loops, nothing more. What we absolutely need to do, of course, is patiently wait for the precise and accurate synchronization of the entire line in order to fully achieve this truly nice and aesthetically pleasing effect. It's all about continuous attempts, persistent trial and error, and that is precisely how we accomplish our goals. That's precisely it. Even in this specific scenario, nothing else is being performed or processed except for this particular operation. Typically, once we have successfully obtained the necessary pointer, this very specific one, which is designated for the color memory management, I then retrieve our pre-calculated scene table, which I have already meticulously computed and prepared. And all that I'm doing here, in contrast to what was done previously, where I was technically shifting the individual pixels from a starting position of 0 all the way up to 7, is that in this current part of the process, I am directly and precisely shifting the actual colors themselves. I could have easily made 15, of course. I could have truly had a lot of fun with it. However, I wanted to approach it. Now, this particular segment, as I was previously explaining, necessitates the application of a distinct and more advanced technical approach. In contrast to our prior methods, this technique involves a crucial step where we meticulously return with the EA81, which is essential for us to systematically proceed and thoroughly execute our complete and comprehensive routine cycle, ensuring all operational phases are meticulously followed and completed as intended. Obviously, you will undoubtedly need to meticulously hack the line of code to precisely tell it to trigger and subsequently generate the interact, but exercise extreme caution when exiting because there's still something critically important to watch out for. You absolutely need to restore raster 1 because here Remember, we are currently operating in Raster 2. We are indeed in a double raster mode, so you are compelled to restore the primary main raster, returning as is customary. This particular part doesn't truly matter in the grand scheme of things. I have simply placed it here to clearly demonstrate that it is an RTS at the very end, but this specific instruction will never actually be executed in practice. And technically speaking, since we have successfully performed a second hooking operation inside a hooking procedure that was already previously done, and that's a bit of a clever play on words, if you will, it consequently goes back to executing the IRQ routine, but specifically the one that changes the screen display. So it will then execute the second raster of the routine that changes the color and so on, clearly also allowing the system to, how do you say, the characters that are pressed and so on and so forth. So clearly, this particular technique needs to be significantly optimized. It definitely needs to be written much better. The processing cycles and so on obviously need to be meticulously respected, but let's say it's a rather fun and visually engaging effect that you can indeed achieve, as I mentioned earlier, especially serving as a foundational basis for various impressive demos. And this captivating visual will also be an integral part of the video thumbnail, where I'll prominently include this distinctive WB double raster effect. And what else can I say? I hope you enjoyed this video. For those who made it to the end, I invite you to leave a like, share it, so that I can bring more content like this to the channel. 6502, assembling, programming, and maybe in the future, even a brief introduction to demos. What else can I say? I'll leave you with these images. I want to thank all of you for staying with me up to this point, and I wish you a great rest of your day. Claudio, Project CD Chronicles.